Welcome to F260, week 28, Esther chapter 8 and 10, entitled, If God Be For Us, Who Can Be Against Us? Highlight verses from Esther 8, verse 8. Wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and take the spoil of them as a prey. Explaining this, the king's order authorized the Jews in every city to defend themselves to the death, killing anyone who threatened them, their women and children, and confiscating for themselves anything owned by their enemies. Applying this, objections have been raised to this part of the Esther story, stating that no ruler would issue such an arbitrary decree sanctioning the slaughter of vast numbers of his subjects. However, the real point here is not the sanctioning of the murder of their enemies by the Jews, but the enormous unfairness of the king's original agreement with Haman to annihilate the whole Jewish race. Therefore, if the blame is to be laid at someone's feet, it must be those of King Ahasuerus. Prior to this, Haman, the king's chief minister, hatched a plot for the mass destruction of the Jews. In Esther chapter 3, verse 11, he invigilates the king to issue a decree sent to all the provinces of Persia, ordering the massacre of all Jews, youngsters and old men, women and babies, on a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. According to the law of the Medes and the Persians, once a decree has been signed and issued, it could not be retracted. So when Esther prevailed on Ahasuerus to retract the decree, his only recourse was to countermand his first decree by issuing a second decree extending the same privilege to the Jews to kill their enemies that had been given to their enemies to kill the Jews in the first decree. Had this self-defense been denied them, the entire Jewish race potentially could have been eradicated, thus preventing the advent of the Messiah 5 centuries later. Of course, the Lord would not permit this. In all of this, the Jews were morally superior to their oppressors. The Jews did not take advantage of their permission to plunder. The decree also allowed them to put to death women and little children, as well as the armed forces that came against them. This the Jews refused to do in accordance with God's law. They put to death only men and did not attack non-military targets. I credit the Hard Sayings of the Bible publication for some of the wording of this account. My response: the providence of God is clearly evident in all the events recorded here. If God be for us, who can be against us? Amen. God bless.